what I'm saying is that we really need to have people come forward now. I'm actually begging people. We've worked so hard to get it to this point, and it really is. I know that most people who have come forward, they were involved for a brief period of time, or they were in an office here, or at a SCIF there, or at a military facility, or a corporate research project, and they don't know necessarily this whole picture. And so they're not culpable. They're not guilty of having done anything improper. They were doing as they were told. And they thought it was all being run properly, legally. It wasn't.
Yeah.
So they were used. And I think that that's very important. And so they have no liability. And now they're protected by the law, and they're protected, if we have to, tactically for security, which I have. But I think at this point that sort of thing, it can't happen because the profile on this is so high. I have a bunch of celebrities who like what we're doing. Something like that happens that I know about in my team, there would be 1 billion people who know about it.
Well,
yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about the suppression of all this stuff in Project Mockingbird?
Mm-hmm.
Can we go into that?
Well, Mockingbird was one project, but it's an ongoing process that started really in full bore in the 50s. And that was to have major media people who were dual agents. They were in the media, but they were also on the payroll of the agency, the CIA or others, and I have a document we published from I believe it was 92, where it says, it's a CIA document, we have people in every major news organization, it says it flat out, that are there to control, stop, alter stories at our request. So I mentioned one myth, and that is that we have a free market and a free economy. We don't. It's managed. Because there's no way we have a free market economy when the most important sciences and technologies of the last 100 years have been ruthlessly suppressed. But the other myth that Americans buy into is that we have a free press and the fourth estate, as it's called, a check and balance against excesses. But the major media, and also now the major tech companies, are actually actively involved in suppressing the story or spinning it. Now, what do I mean? When you see people on CNN or CBS 60 Minutes, the folks that they will allow to talk about it are people that have been cherry-picked by this cabal, this secret government group, to say what they're told to say. It's scripted.
Do you have any examples of this?
Yes, of course. Nick Pope, Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, all those guys.
Okay.
And they have been, I know for a fact, been told what to say. And so they say, number one, first big lie, these are a threat to the national security, inferring that from outer space there's a threat. It's not true. Civilizations that are hundreds of thousands to millions of years more advanced than we are, if they were a threat, we'd be a charcoal floating through space about 1945 August with the atomic bomb. Number two, we'll get to that in a moment. Number two, they will say that we don't know what these are. Maybe they're from China. Maybe they're, and even senior members of the Senate intelligence community have said that. We don't know. Because some of those guys have gone up there and whispered in their ear all this disinformation and spin. I know who they are. When in reality, we know what they are, where they come from, which ones are man-made and which ones are extraterrestrial. We absolutely have that data. But see, someone like myself saying that's going to get cut out of any show. For example, I was on a show, it had 22 million people listening live back some years ago. And I started talking about some of the senior membership of this committee that's running this covert program. And I got to one name. I talked about Admiral Bobby Ray Inman. He's been involved for decades with this. And then he went to the Board of Science Applications International Corporation, SAIC. It's one of the crown jewels of contracting on these exotic propulsion and energy systems. And then I think it was during the election, the second election for W. I mentioned that one of the most senior people is Dick Cheney. And we went to an unscheduled commercial break. A voice broke in, and the host had no idea. And it said, "Dr. Greer, change the direction of this conversation now, or we will dump this show live." I said, "With 22 million people listening?" He says, "Yes. Don't talk about this." And the host was so sad. And the host to this day will say, "Oh, we can talk about anything." It's like when Joe Rogan says, "Oh, yes, I can talk free speech." To make his deal with Spotify, the show I did with Joe Rogan, forcibly by the corporate entity, had to be taken out. It is not in the lineup. You have to find it elsewhere. So anyone who thinks that the media doesn't purge whistleblowers of someone of what we're doing is naive. So Mockingbird, there have been a lot of code names for this, but we have a Air Force Intelligence, AFOSI guy that I have on tape, and it's in the Unacknowledged documentary. People should look at it. It's for free. You can see it for free on all these sites. And he was at Kirkland Air Force Base, and he admitted, and I'm quoting, taking bags of cash to people both in the local and national media, reporters, to secure their cooperation with telling stories or altering or putting a spin on them. So that corruption and rot reaches very firmly into the Fourth Estate and now big tech. And where it's been proven now through files released that people are shadow banned, algorithms are changed. We had a whistleblower that we put his interview, he was willing to do it posthumously. So I did the interview with him. He died. His wife sent me his death certificate. And then I uploaded it on our YouTube channel, which I have. You can go to it. And his name was Pawlek, Pawelec. And he had been involved in the development of the embeddable radio frequency chips.
Really?
Yeah. And he knew of their use in simulating alien abductions that were being done by the CIA and military. We'll get into this in a moment, how deep the deception goes. So we put this up. In a few days, it hits 675,000 views. And then overnight, we check, and the counter is down to 6,700. They went in and chopped off those numbers so it would take it out of the algorithms as a trending video.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah. And so people who think that doesn't happen, I just want to say, I got a bridge to sell you to nowhere or swampland to sell you because they're just simply naive. And this is another reason why we have to find creative strategies to do this, because the corporate, if you look at the major media, there's a handful of individuals and corporations that control all of them, all of it. And that becomes a problem when there's this collusion between these covert operations and corporate. Now, to give a little history lesson, late 1800s, early 20th century, something developed called fascism. Of course, now anyone that you disagree with, you call them a fascist. Mm-hmm. But the definition of fascism were large financial and corporate interests controlling government policy and what the government would do against the interests of the people. That's what fascism is. Go look it up. Thomas Jefferson warned of it. He actually wrote warned of the unchecked power of the corporations corrupting government. That's where we are, but on a massive scale globally. So that's happened with the media, it's happened with the government programs, and it's happened in other sectors, financial, what have you. So the interests of we, the people, have gotten run over by the interests of a relatively handful of extraordinarily powerful corporate and individuals.
How many people do you think are involved at that level?
There are 200 or 300 people on this committee. And one branch of it is called MAGIC, the Majority Intelligence Committee, MAJI, but committee is some MAGIC. Well, I have a document that lists it. So this is in my book, Unacknowledged. That document's in there. It's a secret document that I acquired and published. They can't punish me because I declared the project's illegal. A lot of people say, how have they not pursued you? I said, they can't. Because I had an FBI guy say, I said, let's put the handcuffs on right now and get on the dance floor. Because this is going to go to even if it goes in camera, it's going to go to a court, and I will be able to prove. Because what are we going to do? We're going to subpoena the CI director that I briefed. We're going to subpoena the senators I have briefed. We're going to subpoena the head of the Defense Intelligence. And all these people will have to tell the truth or lie under oath, that in fact they were left out. And so I said, I don't think you want a court case like that.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Sean Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.